Good evening, this is the January 11th, 2016 school committee meeting. I've called the meeting to order. The meeting is being video and audio taped. Is anyone else audio video taping the meeting? Seeing and hearing none, could you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, we start to my left.
Elizabeth Marcy Boucher.
Gregory Thompson.
Deirdre Mayo.
Rich Ficero.
Gordon Smith, Superintendent of Schools.
Bill Fonseca.
Pamela Blair, Assistant Superintendent for Business.
Kathy Saletti, Recording Secretary.
Elena Tilly, Student Rep.
Thank you very much. Now moving to number 2, approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes, regular session of December 21st, 2015?
Move to approve the regular session meeting minutes of December 21st, 2015.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? It's unanimous, Ms. Saletti. Number 3, committee and subcommittee communications. Ms. Tilly, we'll start with you.
So to begin, the GSA is holding its annual No Name Calling Week this week. And students can send positive messages to others, and this kind of just promotes like positive behavior towards each other. And then in the sports department, Marina Wilkins beat the school record for diving.
Nice. Where was that? Do you know where
I'm not sure.
it took place? Yeah.
But yeah, so that was pretty cool.
Oh,
And then
yeah. Very cool.
the final exams are going to be held January 20th to the 22nd. So next
In
week.
sports, if I'm correct, did Noah Peterson get the golf of the year? What's the
Oh,
matter?
yes.
He did get,
Yeah.
yeah, there was something I read about this
Yeah,
morning.
that's kinda
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Mr. Fonseca.
Okay, a couple of quick things. LPVEC Students of the Month, Cosmetology 1, Eve Losi. Brush Hill Academy, Dominic Calabrese, and Integrated Occupational Prep, Jordan Gallagher. Congratulations to those students on their hard work. Also, excuse me, this past weekend, the MASC Annual President's Retreat was held at the Lord Jeffrey Inn in Amherst, where we reviewed and set the agenda for the upcoming year. There's a few things coming up that I will be discussing with the committee in the next couple of meetings.
Beautiful. Ms. Mayo?
We had health advisory this morning,
You did?
and they did mention, what is the movie that they're going to be showing at the high school?
Anonymous People.
Anonymous People, and it's going to be in February. I know it's on my calendar.
February 24th.
Thank you. So,
The Youth Safety Committee is putting on another event. Anonymous People will be shown at the high school auditorium on February 24th.
so
After school or?
No. it's
6 p.m., I believe.
Oh.
So
Okay.
that's what I was
So that
thinking,
families, if
welcome.
they would like, most likely middle to high school students and families.
There's a projector and a screen in there, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Very cool.
And besides that, we'll have custodian negotiations coming up this month also.
Excited.
Mr. Thompson?
I have nothing this evening. Thank you.
Ms. Marcy Boucher?
I'm like still in vacation mode, although I will say, it's bad. E-Leaf will be coming up, I think, the first weekend in March. They're ironing out details and costs and all that, so.
Theme yet?
I think it's gonna be Mardi Gras unless
I
they've
heard that
changed it.
rumor.
So,
I
did hear that
rumor.
very
Good.
exciting.
Okay.
I'll get you more info next time.
All right, thank you.
There are beads.
I think,
Definitely. Without saying?
Yeah.
And I just want to end by saying I had a pleasurable experience. I went to the Mass Mutual Center to watch our East Long Meadow High School team beat Long Meadow in hockey. What was really neat was, what a turnout for the town.
yeah.
There were so many people there, you know, alumni and students and parents and children. It was a great turnout for the town. Great win, too.
Good.
Mr. Chair, one thing actually, was at the Charter Review Commission meeting last Wednesday?
Oh, yeah.
When the,
Last Thursday.
Thursday.
Thursday, was it? A couple of us.
Yeah.
Pretty good turnout. The senior center was full of participants, some feedback on the process. I'm sure Bill could speak more to it, but basically it's a 7-member town council. That is the recommendation that replaces the legislative branch, and that would be the town meeting.
Yep.
And then a town manager as the executive branch, and that would replace the Board of Selectmen. And so that's their recommendation. That'll definitely be on LCAT, the meeting. Certainly informative, I think 46 pages of PowerPoint,
Yeah.
which is very thorough.
Yeah.
And the vote would be in April. right? April town election?
Annual election, it will be a ballot question, a single ballot question, it's either yes or no. We can't, by state law, we cannot split and give options or choices. It's
Right.
either a yes or a no for the whole package. Still a lot of work ahead of us, but, you know, positive feedback. Thank you for both attending. I mean, it was a good evening, very informative, very, very good questions, very good debate. And that's the most important thing, no matter what happens as we move forward.
I think people in town have to understand too, the amount of work you guys have put
Oh,
into this.
I know.
Whether you
Yeah, I've lived this.
agree
I've lived this.
or you disagree with
Yeah.
what they're doing, it has been a very thoughtful process, and I don't know if everybody really respects that.
I'll tell you what, I've learned a tremendous amount by sitting on this. It's a very good group to work with, very diversified. We've all had involvement with the town, which makes it better because we know the inner workings, which is a huge advantage as we move through the process to propose a change. Just the knowledge that we have with there's no special interest, there's no agendas. It's just trying to work for the common good. And it's a very good it's been a very good process up to this. And like I said, I've learned a tremendous amount.
In the proposed charter, it's available paper copies at the library.
Library, Town Hall, we're gonna get it up on our website. It was posted on our Facebook page today, so
Cool,
it's out there.
good.
Thank you. Item 4, opportunity for visitors to address the committee. Seeing and hearing none, let's move to presentations. Mr. Smith, discussion of FY17 preliminary budget.
Okay, at your places, you have many documents, like 2 documents that I'll reference right now. One is yellow, which is in spreadsheet form and captures our preliminary budget, and then one is a larger table in legal paper, just to, as we continue through the budget development process, wanted to keep at your seats and in your minds the original requests, because I think the leadership team did an excellent job of not only understanding the town parameters that were given to us by the Appropriations Committee, but also understanding sort of where we've come over the last 6 years and what we've achieved. And I think the requests are very rational and very connected to where we want to go. With that said, just to remind you, the town parameters were to stay, if possible, within roughly a 2% increase in cases where we've gone over the 2% increase, to provide explanation, and all of this is in preparation for our discussions with the Appropriations Committee, which begin on February 2nd, although we have to send a preliminary budget to the town accountant's office tomorrow. So, just to give you a quick, and I'm sure Mrs. Blair can add more detail than I may be able to give on all the numbers. What we tried to accomplish was to look at the requests that came from the leadership team, the identified needs, and also make sure that we continue all our staffing as needed as we go into the next year, while also seeking one additional position. And we think we've accomplished that. We've accomplished it in doing a few different things. Every year, you've heard us talk about the fact that we look at how has our spending been the previous year or the previous few years. And we look to see if we can realign, or as we develop the budget for the next year, reallocate funds from, say, one line item to another line item where we're going to see greater gains if we start to fund that line item with more money. Specifically, next year, we're in a decent position, given that we have a few out-of-district tuitions that come off our books. With that said, you never know what each year will bring in terms of special education needs and out-of-district placement. So we've looked at that line item specifically, and we looked at another few line items, and we've reorganized a little bit, and we've been able to accomplish not only bringing back all our personnel, but also adding a math coach at Meadowbrook Elementary School, which would complete our academic coaching model pre-K through grade 8. We would have then in every building a literacy coach and a math coach to help us continue to provide embedded professional development and make sure that we're utilizing the best instructional strategies with our students.
So that's that's in the request from the leadership team.
Right.
That's the building personnel request.
That's the one personnel request. In terms of the other requests that we have, we think that we can, in realigning where, or reallocating where we're putting certain funding, we can take a look at the math consumables that were discussed at Maple Shade, at Mountain View, and at Meadowbrook, and accomplish that for next year, so that we purchase those and have our students have the materials they need to continue the math program. We think we also can build or boost a supply line item in special education, and then through a couple different avenues, we can start to build our inventory on technology equipment, which were other requests, through E-rate reimbursement, some of that this year, because we used a lot of our initial money for technology to build infrastructure. And so as we get our reimbursement back for the E-rate, which is a federal program, correct?
E-rate is federal, yes.
Federal program, we should be able to start to purchase some of the technology that are requested, the Chromebooks and so forth.
So when we look at this budget that we have here, 2.08%, it does represent requests from the leadership team.
Yes.
And what about the high school request? Is that being phased in? That was a discussion we had.
Well, most of the equipment requests, and as well as it's somewhat of a renovation request of the library, those will have to be phased.
Okay.
Yeah. The technology's gonna have to be phased, because E-rate's gonna come in this spring. Then you're gonna have technology renewal money that will come in after the new fiscal year starts. And so that's where we would start to phase out and set steps for purchasing technology. In terms of the renovation piece, that we would have to look at phasing that out too, and work with facilities manager to do that. Because most of the work probably would be coming through facilities manager and his crew.
So this budget represents only one new personnel request, 1.0
Correct.
FTE.
One FTE.
And this budget also represents us taking on some, not new positions, but because the grants were reduced,
Correct.
the operating budget has encompassed them.
Similar to last year, as we have grants reduced on us, it means that we often will have to take a portion of an FTE or a full FTE off of the grant and bring that FTE into the operational
But the
budget.
position always existed, it's just a different way of
Correct,
funding it.
yeah. The position has existed in the East Long Meadow Public Schools and has, in many cases, received benefits from the town because the person has been an employee of the town.
This is almost too good to be true. So what you're basically saying is that, that the leadership team requests have been recognized.
Mhm.
Secondly, as far as personnel, we've been able to continue with relevant positions, but have found to fund them in a new way.
Correct.
Old positions to fund them in a new way.
Right,
Wow, and it was coming in at 2.08%.
correct. Yeah. Some of that's due to contracts being settled last year.
Right.
What about the first request for curriculum renewal? Is that
That's in here as
in
well.
here as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then,
A lot of that's as you reallocate funds in accounts that hopefully are going to be less costly next year.
yeah,
We transferred it to curriculum accounts or supply accounts.
the same with the Mountain View, Maple Shade
Some math supplies, Eureka.
materials.
Yeah.
There's 2 Eurekas too. There's
That's
the
correct.
high school has some Eureka. Or no, I'm
High-
sorry,
Meadowbrook.
Meadowbrook.
Meadowbrook,
yeah.
Maple Shade, and Mountain View.
Yeah,
And
all
then-
of the math
Oh, the Eureka.
consumables are in there.
And then E-rate for some of the Chromebook technology.
That's correct.
Yeah, this year.
All
with
of
the-
that request or some of it?
Not
or we
all
don't
of
know. Okay.
The E-rate reimbursement should pick up a decent portion of it. And then as we move into the new fiscal year, technology renewal will pick up additional pieces of that. So that's going to be both the high school's requests around the library and the technology requests are going to be phased in. It's not something that we can
Okay.
do all at once.
Same with Birchland.
Yes.
But the
yeah.
the only thing we're not.
Birchland probably would be the first school as E-rate money starts to be reimbursed. Birchland is sort of a step behind, if you will, and so we need to catch them up.
So you said reimbursed, or we'll have to make assumptions and allocate the money and spend it and then go for reimbursement on it?
No, we've already spent a certain amount of money that around the infrastructure, our
Yep.
wireless network. That money can be reimbursed, because that's the money you can spend.
We're just waiting for it to come in.
E-rate, then the
Oh,
E-rate
then
program
once it's
reimburses.
replenished, it
We can now buy
rejuvenates.
equipment, right?
Is that an account, a
Revolving
revolving
account?
account?
Yeah.
Is that how that
Yes,
works? That one
yes.
is, E-rate is,
Yes.
okay.
So the only thing we're not really addressing is the Birchland Park building personnel request. That's going to take more investigation, correct?
Yeah, that
So-
actually,
Email.
similar to our discussion either 1 or 2 meetings ago, we talked about it. That's probably going to be a district program, and it's really, you're not going to be able to accomplish a special education, social and emotional program with hiring one person. Even if you tried to establish it first at Birchland Park, you would at least probably hire one teacher and one para. However, it's probably going to be a program that we're going to have to, if we start to build this, we're going to have to build from the elementary grades all the way through.
Okay.
And so that's going to be something that over a series of
Takes time.
budgets, we may want to start to build.
Yeah.
So we're not saying no, we're saying more investigation, not now.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
In terms of the high school, the final request, we're looking for some E-rate for that this coming year as well?
It'll be a combination of E-rate. I also asked the high school if they could prioritize which equipment would be absolutely number one
Yep.
for next year, 2, 3, 4, and what we can achieve between E-rate reimbursement and technology renewal before our first day with students next year, we'll try to do.
Do we have a ballpark estimate of what we might fund for that project?
Not yet.
I just look at here, and so I look at the 5 desktop computer, or 6 desktop computers, $3,000.
Mhm.
And if that's their first priority, I don't know if that's what it would be, but it might be. Are we looking at that kind of investment? in
Yeah, oh,
this
yes.
one project,
We would
at
be
least
able to,
something
yeah,
around
yeah,
that, at least?
absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
Because I certainly think there's a good bang for the buck, at least in
Correct.
theory,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, the goal would be to put them in a situation where it's something that's usable and immediately ready for students. So
And I wonder if there's furniture, there's a lot of requests for furniture, if we can
Right.
look district-wide and
And
see
we
if
have
there's
to-
some of these things that might be available, I don't know if
Right.
they are.
Exactly.
Just to get it going, and then
True.
if you
And that's
if you
the
see,
idea.
see if it's getting traction, and there's a
Right.
greater need for it, then it could be one of those high school projects that we
I
really.
mean, Elena might be better able to answer this, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, so I'll start answering it. But I think you will see, you're seeing people use those collaborative spaces now, and there's one off the library.
Yeah,
And if we can start moving in this direction with the library so it becomes truly a media center, you're going to have more people using the library, both formally in terms of scheduling with the librarian, and then after school, hopefully, as people, especially at this time frame where they might be waiting for practices. Am I correct in that? There's a lot of students that,
Yeah.
in the winter time frame,
Absolutely, yeah.
might be waiting for a practice.
I did that before tennis practice. I would go up there a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it's not a traditional library, it's a media center, it's multi.
Right now, it's more traditional.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
in the,
We'd like
what
to
we're
get it to
looking
a media
for
center.
is multifunctional
Yeah.
Right.
as opposed to traditional. No, I know we're a tradition now, but we're trying to get away from that.
Right.
yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear more about it, and
Yeah.
as their plans as they go, and to
This
check
is-
it out.
This is very impressive, I
It
have to
is.
say, very impressive. So, what do we have to send to appropriations?
So we need to send to appropriations what we have called the last few years a preliminary budget. And the reason that it's a preliminary budget is that through our discussions with appropriations, most years, things change somewhat. And so those changes then have to be brought back to a school committee meeting for further discussion, and then eventually a final vote on the bottom line of that budget that's being requested from the town. So this would be, if the yellow sheet in front of you is what you feel confident as a preliminary budget, the motion would be to send this preliminary budget on to the appropriations committee.
The tuitions line,
Mhm.
there's a significant decrease in that 5%. There's some event that's directly related to why we're expecting such a lower
We have a few-
Cost.
Out-of-district
Yeah, we have a few
placements that have
students
aged
are
out.
gonna
They're-
be
that have aged out
Yes, that's
specifically.
correct.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. I believe there was 2.
Right.
And then there's a considerable amount in the fuel savings, fuel's gone down, so we've taken that into consideration.
Right.
That's correct.
And that's always a risk, because you know with just the way fuel is, that it certainly is going down, but it also can come up pretty quickly
Right.
over the course of a year. And so we, as you know from past years' discussions, we in the town lock in eventually through the Lower Pioneer Valley Educational Collaborative. And so we're discussing when they might be doing that, and Mrs. Blair has been in discussions with them to get an idea of what they're thinking.
And then to lock in for the next
Yeah, I
fiscal year.
spoke with Paul Schroeder from Lower Pioneer Valley, and he's hoping within the next month to lock in.
That's good.
There's still got time.
Yeah, there
It's
is
actually
still
earlier
time.
than.
Earlier
it's done
than
in
it
the
was
past.
in the past,
Oh,
yes,
really?
which
Yeah.
is really good, so that
Well,
we
it's, I
can.
guess it's lock in when you think it's.
Yeah, right.
Well, he's-
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's been a transportation guru over there for quite a
Yeah,
while.
yeah.
He's got his finger on the pulse when it comes
That's
to,
what he
when it comes
does,
to
yeah.
fuel. That's what he does, so.
It's specifically the educational supplies and textbooks, that's 76,000. So we justify that with the move from the tuitions.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's
And that's
specifically
where we
for,
talk about the curriculum renewal.
Eureka?
The
That we
Eureka
talked
math,
about? Okay.
that's all inclusive in that amount there.
Right.
contracted services are outside services, not in-house, right?
That's correct, contract, yep.
Are those solid projections, or are those real contracted numbers?
Some of them are projections,
Okay.
especially when it comes to special ed and there's outsourced services. Again, the needs can change,
Right.
so we do the best we can at the time, and that's what I've done for you.
And we did better on circuit breaker this year, am I correct in stating that, the percentage, than we
Probably, yeah.
anticipated?
Yes, we
A
had,
little couple percent.
they funded it, I believe, at closer to 75%.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
projected
And
73.
we projected 60, 60,
Okay.
may have been 68. Yeah.
It's about the 60 or 65.
Last few years, they've been over 70%, where in my first 2 years, they were in the 60s or lower.
Right.
And we don't necessarily get into that side of the equation, though, in this.
Not
No.
there,
No.
but it is
It-
part of my budget book
Right,
here.
it's a resource for out-of-district tuition.
Right.
Should you have a situation that is not being planned on, you have a revolving account where you might be able to handle that out-of-district tuition.
But do we take assumptions in our final numbers towards
Absolutely,
that?
yes.
And what, are we leveling it this year, or?
I'm anticipating to carry over $200,000 from circuit breaker at the end of
Okay.
this year into FY17.
You have to-
And that's part of, special ed is, it's a big ticket item, about $2.3 million in special ed services for out-of-district tuition,
Yeah.
for contracted services, all of it. So there's many different funding sources, from the operating budget to circuit breaker to IDEA grant.
Okay.
All of those are taken into consideration behind the scenes with these numbers.
But a lot of those IDEA, we know the percentages that we're gonna get next
We
year,
don't
the
know,
numbers.
because that's a federal grant.
Right, you never know if you're going to get exactly
Generally,
what,
they tell us in June or July, or
Yeah.
sometimes August,
I'm not
whether
anticipating
they
a
cut.
reduction
Right.
of any
It's always
significant
chatter
amount.
early on,
Right.
okay.
And with circuit breaker, I believe I used last year's number for the monies we got in, but then only utilized like a 65% amount of that reimbursement. So again, being conservative,
65%.
right.
Right.
Basically, what they're doing is they're saying that, and I don't know if this number is still the accurate number, but roughly, when you are spending over $40,000 on a given student, you can then, at the end of the year, apply for the amount over $40,000 to this circuit breaker account, and then they will reimburse that amount, possibly up to 75%.
Back to the district,
Back to
so,
the district.
right, to
So you're
help
always
us with
getting
those.
it after the fact, and
Right.
you're not getting it all back.
Right,
Right.
and it's 4 times over.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
the base number anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, nothing underneath that, but once you get to that threshold,
Yeah.
then it's, yes.
Well, we must have a
reimbursable.
few that are,
Oh, we do.
Oh, we
Yeah,
have,
considerable
we have
amount.
quite a
Yeah.
few,
Yeah.
yes.
So we certainly put an application in a circuit breaker every year.
right.
Yeah.
I'm heading to just a little side note that I meant to mention before, I'm heading to an advocacy conference next week in Washington DC. One of the topics that I'm starting to hear about is going to be the circuit breaker and the fact that there's a big push not to reduce it, to actually increase it across the country because of the fact that there are many, many more IEPs now. It's just gotten complicated. You know, educating the children in this country has gotten really complicated and really expensive, and they're recognizing that,
It
so.
ensures that the funds necessarily to educate an individual student follows them from district to
Right.
district, moved, and is not placed on the local taxpayers
Correct.
just because an individual moved into town.
Right. It does give you
Makes the
some
money
relief.
follow.
Right.
So there will be opportunities to meet with local,
That's neat. Cool. When are you going down there?
leaving next Friday.
Oh. I expect a full report when you get back.
You will get
Thank you.
Okay, so where are we at this time now? We want to vote to send it to the appropriations committee?
Preliminary
for the
budget.
So we're looking for these two pages here. So I'll move that we recommend the 2 pages of
Along with the
preliminary-
FTE.
Yeah, you need
preliminary budget
And the FTE.
And
plus the FTE
That's
page,
correct.
making 3 pages total.
Yes.
And to clarify the budget in yellow, 2 appropriations. Did I move it completely here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a motion, I have a
Send it to
second.
them.
A second.
Second, okay, discussion. I'm going to say what I did last year, I think we should just send them a 2.08. That's the way I feel. And the personnel page. So Brad has made the motion, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
Four, opposed 4-1, so 4-1.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Take care of that tomorrow.
Nice work.
Thank you. Thank
Very
you.
good.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank
This
you.
one, Ms. Flynn, nice
Yeah.
job,
Thank you.
nice
Yeah.
job.
Now you're a pro at it.
Yeah.
Okay, now you're on, Ms. Blair, for some nice
Yeah.
donations here, so walk us through those.
Okay. Let's see the first one. Okay, so first of all, there is a $500 donation to Birchland Park Middle School from an anonymous donor that I'm looking for the school committee to approve.
We have a motion to approve for anonymous donor, the $500, what is it? Gift
To Birchland Park.
Middle School. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, although, any further discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Excellent. Take it away again.
Okay, so the next one is Meadowbrook Elementary School is looking for approval for a $5,000 grant from Mass Cultural Council. To be approved.
Motion
So
to
this is, just to give you some information, this is a grant, the STARS grant that Meadowbrook received last year, and if you remember, it's a way to bring the arts and the core academics together, and so last year, they worked a little bit through science, looking at sound waves, and they had the percussionists come in and do work with the students, and then they, in both cases, because you have another grant, STARS grant at Maple Shade, they work with an outside resource, could be a program, could be a person, and then they have some type of culminating public event, and they'll do that again this year.
motion on that, on the Mass Cultural grant of $5,000 to Meadowbrook.
So moved.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion?
We're off tonight.
I know.
We're out of sequence.
So no discussion, may I have a vote in favor of it, please? Anybody in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
I move that we accept the FY 2016 Mass Cultural Council Stars Residency Grant for Maple Shade in the amount of $4,400.
Do I have a second?
I will second
There
it.
you go.
so much. Any discussion?
Well, I have to say, these grants have been a lot of fun because I know that I've been a part of, I've seen the one over at Meadowbrook, and I think it's been a couple of years now that they've done
They
those
have,
grants.
yeah, at
So
least
it's
two.
really fun that it brings in something that the kids normally wouldn't have. It was very exciting, and then it ends with like even the parents get to go and participate and have fun. So it's fantastic, and I really
believe
appreciate.
in both cases this year, they're going to have, not the same storyteller, but a storyteller who
Yeah.
comes in and helps the students with the different genres of literature.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll be working, if we take Maple Shade, for instance, with the third grade, in writing and storytelling and how you project to an audience, how you determine who your audience might be for a given story and
Yeah.
what that looks like.
So I do appreciate the time that some of the teachers have done to write the grant and then take their time to actually see that it gets followed through, and some of the parents also help out.
Further discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Unanimous again. Old business, 6.1, policy IGD and IJJ, curriculum and textbook adoption visions. This is our second reading, school committee.
Yes. So at the first reading, which took place on the 21st, we had gone through the two policies and the flow chart that was created and is now attached. And at that meeting, the school committee had requested that we make some revisions to the flow chart so that each category or step, if you will, has a final decision within that description. So those revisions have been added to the flow chart, and this is your second reading, so questions or further revisions?
I've got three.
Okay.
On the curriculum review cycle, is that aligned with the curriculum renewal budget line item? Do those two go hand in hand?
Talking about the
Curriculum review
flow
cycle,
chart
flow
and
chart,
the...
is that aligned with the curriculum renewal budget line item?
Yes, we believe that it does. We did a lot of work to make sure that as groups are going through the renewal process, because departments are designated, and
Right.
they're in a
Schedule.
queue or a schedule, if you will.
So
This
they
is
have to
the
follow this
increase.
phase to
They
get the
would
money.
follow,
Yeah.
right.
To get the money,
Right.
beautiful. The form number, was it the textbook renewal, text producing form, number 2?
Form 2?
Oh, wait, does Form 2 have to be completed before you go to Form 3?
If you're evaluating a textbook.
Yeah, okay. And then in Form number 3, Mr. Smith, the superintendent does not have a signature. Are you comfortable with that? It has a department head, the principal, director of curriculum instruction assessment. I just don't know if the superintendent should be signed off. They're looking for some...
Who's the final recommending?
Huh?
Does it, in the flow chart,
No.
is that, where's that fit?
No, it's the very last page on the
Right,
actual
but,
purchase.
who has the
Right.
final decision on it?
It would actually depend on how wide ranging. If you go back to the flow chart, it depends on, is that a text
Right.
for one grade, one school? And then it
Right.
would stay with the principal and the director of curriculum. If you're now expanding that resource across more than one grade and possibly more than one school, now it's coming to the superintendent as well as notification to the school committee. So you would still follow the, this is a recommendation form, so it would be one that I would still see.
Would you sign that, though, if it was more than 2 schools or 2?
You should,
Yeah,
correct?
in that case, yeah,
Grades.
that's a good.
So
provision.
it could be an optional signature, however, either one will cross your desk, it's just not subject to your approval. But any of them are subject to budget, right?
Right.
That
Yes.
goes
All
without
of this
saying.
is subject to
Right.
budget, yeah.
So, in the first one, and specifically with the one grade, one school, there has to be a approval by someone who can approve it based on the money, because
Right.
it, I
Yeah,
don't
basically, your, both your principal and your director of curriculum would have an idea of textbook money that's available. And so,
Okay.
you're right, everything's subject to budget. So if we did not have money available, then unfortunately, we would not be making those purchases.
right?
But they might have building budget money, they might, I think in the
Right,
past,
yeah, the
PTO
resources.
may have
Right.
made
Have money.
Which
donations.
is, which is why
Right.
building principal, when you're talking about one grade, one school, has to be involved because it may be the building-based budget that supports
Stays right
that.
there.
So is there on that form, it would probably be 3 or 2, a place for how it's funded? Total
That last
project
form,
cost.
I'm not sure where it's been, money's
No,
coming.
No, we
Just
don't,
said,
like,
is there
when
money?
you, when you put in a purchase order, you have to designate an
Yeah, it
account.
says at the bottom of the purchase
Yeah.
order.
Where does it say the purchase order?
Please
Very
submit
last
PO
page.
requests.
Bottom of the page.
Please submit a PO request completed for.
And I approve all the purchase orders, just so you
Okay.
know.
So, purchase
Yeah.
order can't be
I just
completed
want
without
to
an
the
account number.
superintendent's signature should be this.
I think you're
Yeah.
right, but it's only if appropriate. I don't
If
think it's
appropriate,
necessarily
exactly.
needed for the first step, but.
So you could add superintendent's signature if applicable.
If applicable, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And I would-
Or being even as specific as if more than one grade or one school. You could just put that in there, because
Okay.
that's the differentiation, right?
Right,
Why don't we just state what that differentiation is?
okay. You want to make a,
I'll move that we amend Form 3 to include a line for the signature of superintendent and specify that it is only required if there's a curriculum change for more
Beyond
than
one
one
grade.
school or more than one grade.
Correct, excellent. Okay, motion by Greg, very well done. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, any further discussion on that amendment? Okay, all those in favor, please say yes.
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 All those opposed? Okay, are we ready to vote on the full document now, IGD?
Well, I just have a couple of things
Okay,
that I
I'm
want
sorry,
to,
go ahead.
that's okay. If we go right back to the beginning of curriculum adoption, in the third paragraph, it's, again, I'm just being picky with the word, it says, "The school committee wishes to be informed of all new courses." I didn't know if we want a stronger word in there. Is it wishes, or is it required, or will be informed?
yeah, I would go with will be informed.
Okay. And then just further down on file IJJ, textbook selection and adoption. With all the bullet points, when you look at, you see that third paragraph, principles that apply?
Mhm.
And then we have all those bullet points after the colon there. Well, if
Yes.
you go down, and again, it's just a very simple modification. There's one about midway down that says, although many points must be examined.
The school committee directs the staff.
Yeah, and you'll see how it ends there. The bullets following that should probably all be indented
Indented.
because it
Oh,
falls
yeah.
under that.
Yep.
That's where I went.
The rest of them, the 1, 2, 3, 4?
I think they all follow, right? They
They
all
do.
follow that, those
Yeah, they do.
following considerations.
Sure.
They're not,
Yeah. So they're directly attached to the bullet points so that, yeah.
yeah, so
in
all
terms of
those 5
outline,
remaining.
Yeah. Should be indented further.
Yes. And those were the only 2
Good pick up.
corrections I saw.
You gonna make a motion to those effect to amend
Sure.
IGD?
Yes, I will make a motion to amend file IGD, third paragraph. The sentence should read, "The school committee will be informed of all new courses and
Mhm.
substantive revisions in curriculum."
Uh,
And then,
So move, individual, do an individual
Yeah, you
policy.
should, 2 policies.
So that was moved?
oh,
I'll second.
Second it, any further discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed? Okay.
okay, then we'll make a motion to amend file IJJ. And I don't know how to word this one.
Fifth point down, maybe, after the fifth point down.
After the 5th point down,
Indent.
indent
The 5 final.
the 5 final bullet points.
Beginning with the needs of the learners must be provided for.
Beginning with the needs of all learners must be provided for, and then continuing down to that last bullet point should all be indented.
Okay, I have
I'll second.
second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's done.
Okay, did you guys get all those changes?
Yeah, I got all the changes, and I think Mrs. Sleddy got all the exact motions.
Okay, I'll move to approve policy IGD and IJJ curriculum and textbook adopted revisions with the amendments previously voted.
I have a motion, I have a second.
I'll second it.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? That is unanimous. Excellent work there, excellent work.
Thank you. for all the revisions.
I think we're just about at adjournment time, adjourning time. Let me see, first I want to thank Ms. Tilly for always being here, wonderful. And our resident videographer here, Mr. Jake Brady, thank you very much again. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Excellent meeting, excellent.